Hello and welcome back to another interview. Of course, I'm joined by another very familiar face known as d00mbr0's, and as we've just discussed moments before we went live, the longest standing coach in all of Valorant, we think.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say that. I don't like
Just
attention, so
it should
don't
be in
call
your
me that.
Twitter bio. That should be
Yeah.
your major flex. Is like, yeah, I've been around for a very long time. Although I will say, I'm something I'm going to bring up later. It's sort of been like you've been coach, then analyst, then coach, then analyst, then coach again,
Yeah,
and it switched a few times, but you always get back in the seat.
yeah. I've been. Um, yeah, I don't know if you could say coach for Fabriken. It was me and my twin brother doing it
Yeah.
together, so kind of co-coaching, I would say. The roles weren't that set, but I came in as an analyst right in FPX in the beginning, and then became a head coach. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
I want to dive straight in all the way back in for Fabriken because obviously that was I think one of the first like I guess big teams. Like you look at you look at like the super team of G2, and then obviously Party Parrots was one of the other ones. How did that merger come about? Because when I think of it, like part of me thinks, oh, the teams must have gone like we want to merge together, and then the org picked you up. But it all happened at once, and everybody was kind of sat there like, did FPX just buy half of each team and slam them together, or was someone else involved?
I mean, um, obviously we had our team Fabriken, right?
Yeah.
And then we were Party Parrots. So I think I think it was Prodigy, the agency Jerome.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not sure, but basically they got in contact with FPX and want to build a kind of a EU super team of that time. And
Hmm.
I remember I had an interview with FPX where they asked me, how would your super team be if you could build it, right? And I just straight up said, you take three players from Fabriken, you take Shadow, Meadow, and Zyppan, and you take Shao and Angel, and you have a perfect team. And I think
Okay.
for a lot of people at that time, because I think all the other good teams were signed, it was the obvious choice, I would say, of players to merge. So,
I'm
um,
curious. Did the other players who didn't get signed know that before you said it just now?
um, I'm not sure. I mean, I just remember we usually have with Fabriken, or not usually, but we went to a boot camp, but we kind of call it
Hmm.
a boost camp because party a lot. and
Oh, okay.
I just remember that I think the news broke then that yeah, our team was breaking apart and three of the guys were going to FPX.
Hmm.
So I think it broke, yeah, around then, and obviously people were kind of sad. I think it was Latex and Leodeds who were left out.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously at the beginning I was left out as well, but I think the players that got in there like contacted me and said, You need to you need to contact Angel, you need to come to scrims, we really want you and really need you. So we talked with Angel, and yeah, you need to try out as well for a period.
Yeah.
So I kind of weaseled my way in, if you would say, because um,
The true
yeah,
sports way.
yeah. I
Everybody
mean,
weasels their way in. It's never clean. That's what
you
I've
can
learned.
imagine Angel, like he's been in the scene for God knows how long.
Yeah.
He's not gonna have a coach come in and say to him what to do, especially if you don't have that much experience, right? So I kind of had to build myself up from the ground, like being an analyst and then kind of going up the ladder, right, and learning, pretty much relearning everything from him until I could get into a position where we felt comfortable as a team that I could take the head coach position. So
One of the other things I wanted to know is because I genuinely don't know this myself. What were you doing before you coached for Fabriken? Like what? Because I think I think I found your YouTube channel the other day, and it was like, was it COD montages and
oh
stuff?
yeah.
Like I was doing my
Ooh.
research. I was looking into this stuff. But like, is that what you were doing, or was there like a full time job, or like what was d00mbr0's before Fabriken and
Yeah.
before all of this?
So Doom Bros is like a really cringe name, to be honest. I don't know why I still have it, but it's basically me and my twin brother. We used to share a PC. We
Oh,
didn't
okay, so it's
have
both
enough.
of you.
yeah, yeah, we didn't have enough money to have one of each, so we used to like share it and play
Mm.
games on the same account. And we used to do YouTube. Like I used to edit a lot of like code montages. Used to get paid for it. Like people took their, I don't know, their mom's credit card and paid for me to do their montages and shit. So I did that for a while, and then my twin brother were going pro in Overwatch. And for me, I went into a full-time job working at a graveyard, like being the burial
Okay.
um, responsible for like burials and stuff like that. So I did that for 7 years, I think, and also trying to support my brother in his esport career, right? Because usually the few first years you don't make any money, so I kind of
You're
figured,
telling a commentator like I know
yeah,
that for
yeah.
sure.
So it just made sense, you know. We kind of stick together in most things we do, so it just makes sense made sense for me to have a full-time work and just earn a stable salary, and for him to be a bit more free to do his thing in Overwatch, right?
Yeah.
And I think I worked at the graveyard, yeah, 7 years. I still worked while was in Fabriken. You know, I still worked 7 to 4, and then went home, then scrimmed until like 11, and then went to bed, and then
Jesus Christ.
did that for half a
The
year
grind.
until I got signed for the analyst position, right? And then I just quit my job instantly. But yeah,
That's fair.
it was a hard time, you know. But yeah, no
So
regrets.
did you know the players of Fabriken beforehand, or like how did that actually come about that you were their coach?
Um, Yeah, I mean, I knew them from my brother, right? We're kind of a Swedish community in the Overwatch scene,
Mm.
so I think we had a Discord, and as soon as like Project A came out, everyone was like, "Okay, this is gonna be the next game." You know, we all love CS, but and we all love Overwatch, and yeah, people are getting a bit tired of Overwatch. So me and my brother decided, okay, we're gonna I don't want to swear, but we're gonna freaking go pro in this game, you
Oh,
know?
you could
Yeah,
swear
yeah,
as much as
yeah.
you want here. I
We're
don't mind.
gonna fucking go super ham, you know? I think we started forming the team like 3 or 4 months before like the beta came out. Like we really planned
Oh, damn. Okay.
everything ahead, yeah. And we're friends with Latex from before,
Mm.
so basically me, my brother, Latex wanted to do a project as well, so we kind of merged those ideas into one. And obviously, my brother was a player before, and I was the coach. And then he switched to coach a bit later because he realized he wasn't good enough anymore. You know, too old.
You said it. You said it. I didn't say
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
I
It's
still believed the whole time, that the comeback was coming. So
so yeah. That's
one
kind
of
of
the
how it
things I
started.
yeah, one of the things I want to ask now, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, that obviously you had to grind your way up to working with Angel because he's someone that obviously I think anybody who's come from CS has watched a ridiculous amount of time. How does that dynamic work now? Because obviously you've clearly proven yourself over time. I think that the team that you guys have built together is one that has had some longevity. At least the core of it has been around for quite a while now. So what is the dynamic now? Is it like those pauses come in and you're almost telling him what to do, or is it like, okay, I'm suggesting stuff, Angel, I'm just suggesting you could do this, Angel, you
Yeah.
could.
I mean, I think it's a bit of both. I think
Okay.
it's definitely sometimes more to the suggesting side, but obviously when I take the timeouts and I tell them what I
Yeah.
want them to do. But it's not my job to interfere with Vigel and what his
Yeah.
vision and plan is, obviously, and especially not Angel because he knows what he wants to do, and that's more important than
Your
what
own
I always want
fracture,
to
you
do.
know?
Yeah, yeah, but it's but I think what works for us so well is that we work really well together. You know, it's basically
Mm.
him and me that runs the team,
Yeah.
and you know, come with ideas, talk with each other, shutting down each other's ideas. You know, I think that's really important, and just being open with each other. I just remember the first day in FPX with Angel, and man, I wasn't ready for that brutal honesty. He was like, "Yeah, that idea sucks. No, but what about this? No, 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 that's not how you do it. What are you talking about? You need to do this, like, you know." And your confidence, if you're not used to that
Yeah.
kind of brutal honesty and like his vision of how to learn, then you can be kind of taken aback, especially your ego. But like over the time. Like I think I learned from him like almost everything I know, and now we're kind of working together really well. Like we handle different things in the team. I might handle the obviously more of a macro, more new ideas, the scouting, the preparation for the teams, scheduling, managing, yeah, everything like this. And he handles more of the like, let's say, hardcore strats like micro,
Mm.
exact waypoints. Also, like having a own idea in his head of what he wants to do, what he wants to call, like how should the game plan look. I think that's why it's working so good. You know, you have two
Mm.
people who's working together. Kind of on the same level and understanding each other because we've been together for such a long time now. You know that you have developed a
It al-
system. So
it almost sounds romantic. I'll be
yeah,
honest. We've been together such a long time. We know each other so well. It's beautiful.
I mean, I just have to add. I think that's why you see me staying in this team for so long, or you see me,
Mm.
Mini and Fnatic staying in the team. It's like
Yes.
you have this symbiosis of the head coach and the IGL, and them working together and kind of functioning as one and running the team and having the same vision. So I think that's really a key to our success and to Fnatic's success, or even to who else has that dynamic? I was gonna say Sliggy and all of Liquid, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean. It's I think that's like really important because you can't
Mm.
have a coach like a fully just head coach driven team. It's not gonna work. So
So almost moving on from that point a little bit, the one thing that I think, especially with your longevity in the team, that's almost a little bit of a surprise looking back, is the period with Johnta. Because
mhm.
like he obviously came in for a few months. It seems like it didn't work out amazingly well. Was that just a different leadership style from him being attempted, or just the after that sort of period you guys felt actually the dynamic we had before kind of worked a little better?
I think Angel and the team like we really wanted someone experienced to come
Yeah.
in and kind of help the younger players with how to deal with pressure, how to play officials, how to think and stuff like this. And I think Johnta, I mean, he was in the like playing with Markelov and all these players in 1.6 and with Angel. He's been in the scene for like a really long time. So I actually looked up to him a lot, and I
Yeah.
thought he was actually really great. Like he's an amazing coach. Like really, he's underrated for me, But obviously, he needs to have the right team that fits his style. Like he's very strict and very CIS CS:GO style,
Yeah.
which fits us to a degree. But I think Angel wants a bigger voice in the team. Like Angel is very vocal on what he wants.
Yeah.
So you can't really be too strict in your own vision. You kind of have to let Angel have his space. And I think that's where maybe it got a bit wrong because, yeah, maybe they were a bit different, but sometimes it was some clashes, right? It always happens.
Yeah.
And obviously, we didn't have the best results. So, like, the FPX decided to remove him, right? But
Mm.
no matter what, I think he's also taught me a lot. And yeah, I really, really like him. And I think he taught me almost as much as Angel did. So,
Damn.
um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Well,
he's
we need to see more of Johnta then, if that's
yeah,
the
yeah,
case.
he's. I'm not sure what happened in Heretics because I like hear different things, but
Hmm.
I can just always just talk from my own experiences and nobody else. That's what I do, and from my experience, I really liked him. Working together with him as well as his analyst or like kind of assistant coach, right? I think it worked really well. So.
So you kind of touched on a little bit the results of 2021. I think for many team or many people, you came into the year as almost the team guaranteed to make at least one international event. I don't think that's wild to say. There was the sort of hopium period. I think the initial like Masters 2 failure was one that ultimately I wouldn't call a massive failure because of the teams that you lost to, the likes of Liquid, Gambit. But then going into the last Masters qualification, I think that's where things got a little bit weird. Like, I would almost call it a slight identity crisis with some of the, like, comps that were being run, some of the roles, like Sick being a Phoenix sometimes, next game he's a Cypher. Did you feel like at that point that even though the players, I don't think there's any doubt the players were very good, it just didn't mesh as well as you guys would have liked?
I mean, from my experience, we haven't changed our vision of the game and the way we want to play
Mm.
the game ever since like we started. Like even last year, I think our system and our vision is the same as this year. I think the problem we had last year is that we didn't have the right pieces to be able to do what we wanted to do. So, for example, I think with Dimasic back then, I think his hero pool was a bit limited. So the style and the picks we wanted to do was
Cypher and Phoenix, good
yeah, it was
engine.
you know I think I think when you hit roadblocks with what ideas you want to do,
Mm.
there's gonna be a problem. So I mean, but apart from that, I still think we did pretty good. I think we won one challengers as well in 2021,
Yeah,
and I think we qualified to almost all the like qualifiers for the lands, right? But we kind of
yeah.
fail at the last hurdles all the time. Um, so
That
from
that
my
Forza match still gives me nightmares. I
yeah,
just want I
yeah.
want you to know that that still keeps me up at night, going like, no more bind,
I mean,
please.
I remember at like 2020, and I
You
like took a time.
remember? Do you?
Yeah, yeah, and I took a time out that we were talking like I think we tried every strat we ever did. What the fuck can we do now? It's like we tried exactly everything. It's like yeah,
I,
I mean
I could
that
just
was
imagine Shao on Omen just sweating like I've got so many kills. What more can I do?
that's the thing about Valorant too is like you can have bad 2 weeks and it's gonna define your whole year, right?
Yeah.
So I think we just had a bad month or something like this, and it kind of defined our whole year. And I think every organization have this. You know, you have G2, you have Liquid, right? Fnatic. Sometimes I think it just happens, and for us, it just happened at the wrong moments. But from practice and from scrims and just from the team's perspective, like we've always been the same. How would I say it? Like at the same level. Like I still think back in 2021 we were really fucking good. Like especially in
Yeah.
scrims, we're just a problem of actually doing it in official and also having a bit of a let's say off period at the wrong moments, and it kind of defines your whole year, even though it shouldn't, because we knew how good we were and what we could
Mm.
do. So
Well, I think he was still like what? It was either 1 or 2 spots off being an LCQ, and then it wouldn't have even. It might not
yeah,
have mattered in theory.
and I mean, I don't think we ever came below top four in all of those things. I think it was more because they had the regional masters in the first year, right? Like the
Mm.
regional masters, and they got a little bit more points. So that's why you had a
I
lot
think
of
the
like,
only one was the Masters 3 qualifier, because I think that was the one where you went out, you got into playoffs and then went out
yeah,
to Forza at the bottom. But I think that
yeah,
was the only
yeah.
one, and that was a weird that was a weird FPX to watch. I won't lie to you.
I mean, I think we were a little bit boomed because I think we played SMB and then their internet went down and then we had to replay 2 rounds that
Yeah,
we
I think I
won,
remember that.
and then we had to play the other day, and obviously the teams can watch the VOD and see everything you
Mm.
do for the next day. So I think we had a kind of unlucky schedule, and then we had to play directly like at the same day, like it got postponed. So I think it was pretty hard for everyone, but obviously you kind of have to expect those things and be able to cope with these things in a team. So I think for this year we were a bit more immune to stuff like that. But back then, yeah, I mean, I think it was more of a performance issue, not so much like our game plans and our strategies and our approach to the game. I just think it looks like that because, yeah, we didn't play as we should.
Well,
Obviously, yeah,
that sort of leads on to what I was going to ask next. Is do you ever feel like sometimes like you and Angel overcomplicate things slightly, because we've always looked at that squad and gone, you've got Shao and Zyppan, especially at times they've been two of the best players in the entire league. I don't even think that's in question. You could stick Shao on a jet and sometimes he'd win you a map. And then I think there was a game of Split where you played 0 duelists with him on a Viper, like Shao on a Viper, and we were just kind of watching you look at it as a whole and you go, I don't think this is a bad comp, But I also, especially versus a team like Forza, who we didn't really expect much from, it was sort of looking at it and going, did they need to do this to win? And I think that was the answer that we kind of looked at and went, no, not really. They probably could have won just by even just pugging it a little bit.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, we get the results and we are as good as we are because we take
Yep.
the approach we do. Uh, I think if we would take more of a layback approach and don't innovate and change comps and play a bit more stale, I don't think we were gonna be this good. So
Yep.
for me, it's more people see that we are good and they think that the comps is the one thing that bring us down, but maybe we're down here and everything else is what's bringing us up, you know, and people just don't realize. So to your first question, of course, I think sometimes we overcomplicate it and do it a bit too fancy, but I mean that's the whole point of trying to come up with things and trying to explore new avenues, right? And I think that's important with a team to be able to try to push the meta, try to um, push the game in some direction, because otherwise you become stale, you don't progress, you just rely on the same old, and some new team with better understanding of the game is gonna overtake you. So, and I mean, I understand that sometimes it especially if you have, I mean, imagine if you have this like big machine, right, with a lot of parts, and
Mm.
suddenly, you know, it's easier for that big machine to fail if like one little cog fails and everything falls apart. But if it works, it's amazing, right? It's
It's
like a
genius. Yeah,
Ferrari,
I
yeah,
get what you
yeah.
mean.
But then you could have a Volvo, it's just reliable, a few parts, and it like, yeah, it always
So
works. But
who's the Volvo Valorant?
I mean, I don't know, Sentinels, like Ascend, like you know, people who play really good standard comps that you know
Mm.
will work, and you rely more on like the individuals, like or the basic team play of the team, right?
Yeah.
And not so much on ability combos and new tech and trying to counter pick or counter util, but you're more just relying on like having good fundamentals
Mm.
and playing together. So obviously that's an approach you can also take, and I think I took that approach when Angel was unavailable, right? And I
Yeah.
had control of the team with Shao. Like I took that approach of just doing it more basic, scaling it a bit down, and letting the players have a bit more freedom and call for themselves, right? And just giving them general guidelines and yeah, all this. So I think it's just two different styles, but for me, um, I kind of like our style. It's like
It is
when
fun.
I mean, it's this game isn't like football or like obviously in the beginning of a game you could have one comp, like one play style that you are
Mm.
really good at. Like I think someone mentioned it to stream.
G2.
Yeah, yeah, but
Oh,
master master of one, right? Like you're really good at this one thing, and it's so good that no matter what you play, you're gonna win. But I
yeah.
think now the game is going more in a direction where, I mean, if you're going into a rock paper scissors match and you know the person is coming with a rock, like you want to come with a paper, you don't want to come with a
Mm.
scissor, you know. It's or sometimes you want to come with a gun in the rock paper scissors, you know. I feel like that's how this game is. There isn't like a universal best comp on each map, because there's always some comp or something that can break it with some like easy utility usage, and obviously it's down to every team to find that or to change a bit, and it gives you a massive advantage. It really does. Like the
Mm.
hard part is just implementing it and having players to be able to do it. And sometimes where you're not able to do like that adaptation and those switches, it looks really stupid. Like it sometimes does with us, you know. But I don't really care if it looks stupid, because like we have our vision, we have our system that we do, and
Mm.
everyone believes in it. So either we win or we lose, but we still stick to our plan and what we want to do. And I'd rather lose that way than to doubt the whole system and whole process, right? So
That's fair. So before we move on to the stuff this year, I want to touch on the roster moves that were actually made, because I think many people at the time, even though the team didn't work that year, I think the moves that were made were still a bit of a surprise. Like I think Dimasic being removed for Saigetsu was one that I think surprised a lot of people, in the sense that Dimasic was very good individually. Although he didn't have the depth of map pool, I think just Saigetsu is still somewhat of an unknown, even though he had played within, I believe, Forza. It wasn't like people were going, oh, yep, that's an obvious choice. Like, that's a big move for FPX. So what was it that you guys saw in him that you were like, okay, actually, this is a piece to our puzzle that will fit?
So after we didn't qualify, I actually built my own tool to both analyze our own team and like the dynamic within the team, and also other players in EU and other teams, to just try to compare like how does our team look like statistically
Mm.
and in a certain areas like that I don't want to say what, and like how does it compare to the people that are in champions that do good, and I could spot some tendencies and some general structure that we lacked that other teams had that makes you successful in a balanced team. So for that reason, that's why I think we got rid of Shadow and Dima, like because I saw, yeah, I can get better pieces here that fits more into the general dynamic of what makes a good team. And then I just looked at every player and which players fit this profile that I want, um, according to my tool, right? And Sugetsu was one of them. I think we tried like, I don't know, 12 people or something like this. But
Oh,
for
okay.
me, Sugetsu has always been like a beast. Like I think I've been a fan of him. I watched his stream a lot, like the
Mm.
the beta and forward, and I always thought like every time we screamed him, he destroyed us, and he had a cool anime name. Uh, so and his aim is like legit, like tense level. Like I don't think it's like JD and him, like and maybe tense, but his aim is so good,
Well,
and
I
he's
think we saw
young.
that. What was it this week?
Yeah,
Where they're just playing Sage. Oh, when he was like placing like fake Sage walls that just to push through, I was like, "This is over. Just end the game here. There's nothing you can do." Like it's so far in their heads. But I think that was what was enjoyable because I think this is the problem of your team in general is that because you've got players like Shao, like Zyppan, like Ardiis, people don't look at Saigetsu maybe as much as they should.
yeah. I mean, the guy is really young. He comes a lot, and he's not afraid to make plays or come up with, I don't know, TikTok walls or take risks. And you know, I think he's a diamond in the rough. Like he's pretty young,
Mm,
especially when he started with us. Like we knew that we kind of had to teach him the ways, the FPX ways, you know, and teach him like our vision of playing the game and how to fit into our style. So
mm,
that's kind of also why we went with a bit more seasoned player in Ardiis, like someone who can take initiative, who can be confident in officials, who can mid-round call, right, and stuff like this, just to balance it out because we didn't really want, you know, to sign two young superstars, you know. Sugetsu is one young superstar, and Ardiis is one UK superstar, you know, in his own
mm.
right. But his
UK superstar
yeah,
sentence
but
that's never been uttered in history.
he's good. He's good in a different way. You know, people
Yeah.
don't realize how good Ardiis can be because he might not be the most flashy player, but he's one of the most smartest players out there. You know, and he's
You just say
uh,
artist isn't flashy. That might be the. No, I don't think
not to
anyone's
me,
said
no.
that either. Like the man like runs in with an operator and kills people at the beginning of
Yeah,
rounds. You're like, he's not very flashy though. Like they're quite basic stuff coming out of artists.
yeah. I mean, for me, he's flashy another way. You know, but yeah, it just fits right. And obviously, we had a
Mm,
long trial period. Um, but yeah, people should sleep on Sugetsu. I mean, it's good because
keep doing it.
yeah, people always look at the duel lists and everything. And meanwhile, in my team, I'm like fanboying over like Shao and yeah, everyone really. But
Yeah. I would say Shao also is maybe one of everybody. Like I think if everybody has a top 5 list, if Shao's not on it, then they're wrong. I feel like that's the way it should look at. I want to move into artists though, more so because I think everybody else looked at your team at the time and went, okay, well, this is the moment where either Shao or Zyppan goes back to being an out and out duelist. Because I think both of them have the capability to do so. Shadow, fantastic support player. I think one of the most highly rated in the league at the time. So a swap out was really interesting with Ardiis because I don't. I well, not to be rude to Ardiis. Now he's brilliant, but at the time, I don't think anyone was looking at Ardiis because he didn't really do anything in Heretics because of reasons that I think the like personal reasons and other stuff. And then obviously his time before where he'd sort of been removed from the roster. So I think he was one of those bits where I'm sure there were some teams looking at him, but I think a move to FPX, everybody went, "Whoa! Like, what have they seen that we haven't in a while?"
I mean, I think we looked at Ardiis way before, like back when we got Dimasic. I think we looked at Ardiis as well as a
Mm.
potential player, but he went to Heretics, obviously. Like
Yeah.
it didn't work out. Um, but for me, I mean, firstly, I used my magnificent tool I built to.
If you and Minnie combine, the world's fucked. There's just gonna be this like team of like 17-year-olds, and you'll join the server, and your head will explode, and you'll be like, "Dude, what the fuck?" Like both of you said, "Yeah, I have my ways," and I'm like, "What are these ways?"
But also, I mean, Artis is quite respected in the like pro player circle, you know, and the team circle. I think I knew how good he was and that he was put on a role in Heretics that he didn't enjoy.
Mm,
And I will remember him from his Jet days in G2. So I knew he had the capability, and if he had the right structure and the right environment to play a duelist, then he would really thrive. So for
mm,
us, we were more interested in, okay, is this guy still good? Can he still play Jet? And I know he wants to play Jet, like he doesn't want to play the roles he did in Heretics. So yeah, why not try him out? And he was the only guy like from all the tryouts that consistently like further bombed every scrim, like
fair.
really carried us. So and like moreover, obviously any jet can carry a game. Like it's not that important to me. Like what was important was he was very active in the like off the server, like in discussions, in strats. He was very like talkative, like did mid round calls, wasn't afraid to say, okay, yeah, Shao, come with me, do this for me, and I
Mm,
will go here, right? And doing reads and just being a constant like pillar of reason together with Angel, because that's really what we needed in the team. You know, more
mm,
people to be able to step in to give ideas and not have Angel being the one who's always like when you're playing the game, always saying where everyone should go and what we should do, but have someone who can like take initiative, be that like true jet main. To create space and like not being afraid to go in and die and maybe into a few
yeah.
rounds, but like winning you the space, right? So I think he had all of that. So just felt natural to us to bring him in.
Honestly, I want to be a fly on the wall when it's Artist and Angel having a conversation because I can't imagine those two like not only just two personalities but also the two accents just like hitting each other and you're just sat there like oh god.
I mean, artists and it, like we like to joke around, like we're a pretty raw team if you say like that. But I think I think they found each other eventually. Like it might have been a little bit weird in the beginning. You have this
Okay.
like, uh, but I think like eventually like we were having so much fun. Like artist is making everyone laugh every scrim and like bringing the mood up and
Hmm.
doing jokes and having these like small memes with the rest of the team. Obviously, sometimes for me it goes a bit overboard with the whole team, right? So I kind of have to dial it down a bit and like remind them that they're still paid players, so they have to behave.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think it's only gone like positive in that direction. At least for us, you know, that's another point people said about the artist. Oh yeah, this guy is toxic. This guy isn't a good teammate. This guy isn't this. This guy isn't that. I'm like, okay, I have that in mind, but because for us, like the team atmosphere, like how we treat each other, how we talk with each other, this is like so important. Like more
Yeah.
important really than how good you are in the game. I would say, you know, because this is like the secret to longevity and consistency. You know, do you like each other? Can you criticize each other? How do you speak in game? Do we like to hang out? Like all this stuff, and
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's
I'd like to
really
see
gone well.
someone be toxic to Angel though. I'd just like to see the look on his because I would almost just feel like it would be like, well, you know you're fucked.
I mean, I'm toxic to Angel all the time. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm he's short in real life, so like I'm not afraid of him. Don't worry. It's I can take him
Oh.
down. Like,
I don't know. I feel like he'd be able to fight dirty, but maybe that's just me.
I mean, he can't IGL in a 1v1, you know, it's a bit hard. No, but seriously, like I think that's the one of our key to success as well is
Mm,
that everyone respects Angels so much
yeah.
that, you know, there's no like if he says something like to the players, like we're gonna listen and we're gonna say okay. Like it's the final word for them, and they have so much respect for him and the things he gone through and his career and what he says that everyone is kind of on the same page and buying into it fully. So um, yeah, I just want to add that.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, to be fair, most people do respect Angel within the scene just because of the history. Now, moving on to the roster being complete, you had to go through the CIS qualifier this time. I want to know your confidence level coming out of that because I think it was a decently clean road up until the grand final, and then it was like the squeakiest like get through the final I've ever seen with like going 0-2, coming all the way back to win it 3-2. Was that like a slight worry in your head going into like the EMEA challenges where you've gone, like obviously Navi are a solid team, but there are bigger fish that you're going to have to fry along the way?
Not really. I mean, we practice all the top teams all the time, so I knew
Yeah.
where our power level were and how good we were. And I think people underestimated the CIS teams a little bit.
Mm.
And obviously, in the start of a new team, like you saw in the Red Bull Clutch tournament and in the qualifier, you can have like ups and downs in the start, right? That's like supernatural, at least for us. So I expected us to sometimes be good, sometimes be shit. Um, and you know, in the grand final, yeah, we lost two maps, but like we have a really deep map pool. And I was confident, like from my preparation, from my scouting, that like the first two maps, yeah, sure, it was rough, it was close, like they popped off, but the other three maps like should be easy wins for us. So I wasn't really worried at all in that series. You know,
Mm.
I think we're really good at best of fives. We play like regularly a lot of maps in a row in practice. So we have endurance and we have a map pool to deal with it. Yeah, so I wasn't worried, you know.
Okay.
And honestly, I'm more scared of a team like a KPI and Navi than I am of, I don't know, yeah, some of our top teams. I don't want to
Yeah, I
say
was
who.
about to say, I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
who you about to
I'm too
flame? Like,
Swedish. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but I think you need that confidence. Like it's important to have like to think that you're really good and
mm.
think that you will do well, and just have confidence in the team and the team you built and what you can do. So yeah.
Yeah, and even then, like going into the season, did you? Because like obviously you said, okay, we played well against all of these teams in scrims, but I think other than a loss to London United, or who are now Oglu, uh, I think you were flawless throughout the rest of the season. So like, did you expect to be that good? Like you built this squad. You had probably more issues than anybody, like
Yeah.
with players dropping in and out, like one coming back, the other going in. Angel playing Jet. I'm just going to throw that one into the ring and still managing to come out on top in all of these games. And it's like, I feel like compositionally, some of the time, as you said, it went back to basics. Some of it even went to shit, but you were still getting through those matches.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wasn't expecting us to do that well with substitutes.
Mm,
I think I got a bit lucky when I found BaddyG to get into the team because he's such a positive guy. He's very good. He's very talkative. He comes up with ideas and like asks me after script like, what do I need to improve on? What do I need to do? And I think that really helped us in the season to only lose one series, right?
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I wasn't that confident because in the beginning of the season, I think against Gambit, like Angel had COVID, like really severe COVID, so like he was barely able to play, like really barely able to call,
Mm,
and people know that like we rely a lot on our adaptations and our calling rights, so that's why like the series against Big was very close, and against Gambit it was also pretty close, right? Or M3C, right?
yeah.
Um, and then as soon as Angel got free of COVID, like the whole war
Came back
happened.
with a vengeance.
Yeah, yeah. So it was like like double the trouble for us.
yeah.
But I think we felt that we we were so strong, and wasn't gonna let like this kind of rob us of what we should get, you know. Like we knew we were really strong, and I have this feeling in me that like we have to show like how good we are, and show to the world that we're a force to reckon with. Like people are underestimating us like every time,
Mm.
you know. Last year it was the same, people underestimated us, and this year it's the same, people underestimate us. And I know how good we are, and how good our strats and our reads can be, and like what we do. So I think that feeling kind of carried us through all the games, like knowing that,
Mm.
you know, not the pressure is off, but we really want to show, like we really want to go to land, we really want to go to the international level, you know, like this is our time. This is really important for us, you know. Let's really work hard for this. Um, so yeah, uh, I was surprised, I would say.
Did you ever think of bringing on BaddyG as a permanent sixth? Because I think that he did an incredible job. Like somebody subbing in, and I think he subbed in on Astra a lot of the time. Which when I remember BaddyG before that, it was him running in on bind on a Phoenix. So like the fact that he came in, I was like, okay, they brought him in as a duelist, and then I'm like, what the fuck? Like, and he was a really good Astra as well. I was like, okay, this doesn't make a lot of sense. But was there ever a time where you went, am I confident in my own five now that I've seen this guy? Because like, he was sick.
So yeah, I knew he played Astronomen. Like he switched from duelist to smoker a while back, I
Mm,
think. So I knew that, but obviously the thoughts came to mind, like to sign him as a sixth player. Um, I think I would like that, but I can't really comment on why it didn't happen.
okay.
Uh, but you know, I think he's a really good player, and he's in Vitality now, so he has a good home,
Yeah.
and he's deserving of that home because he's one of the best teammates I've ever had. You know, like yeah, it was just fantastic, and I'm so grateful for him. But yeah, I can't really comment on exact
That's
details
fine.
and why
That's fine.
we didn't sign him, but it wasn't because of him. That's like he's a great
Okay.
player. So
So obviously, then this leads us on to the topic that I don't think anybody really wants to talk about. But it's the fact that obviously you did qualify for the Masters, you qualified in first, and then shit happened. That's the way I'm gonna put it. The main well, there's two questions I want to ask. One, obviously, there's going to be bitter disappointment for the team. Was that something that almost rallied them going into this season, or was there almost a point where you were like, I need to pick these guys back up because they've done the work, they've earned what they deserved, and so did you. But ultimately, you didn't get the reward other than the points. But I don't think anybody really cared as much about the points.
I mean, I'm not a rally guy. I'm not a speech guy. Like I don't like speeches. I don't like. I'm more of a calm guy who just do hard work and keep on going.
Mm,
I don't really think about like things you can't control or outside factors. You know, you just keep doing your best. Like keep being sharp. Like practice, practice, practice. Keep working hard. I think for the players though, I think they were really disappointed. Obviously, like I think we got to
yeah,
know like one day after the final or something that we couldn't go. Like it was pretty heartbreaking to say the
yeah,
least. But I think for us all, we did the best of the situation. We got first place. We got points, like for the eighth place in the Masters prize, so that's good for champions.
yeah.
And anyways, our goal isn't really like going to Masters. Our goal is to win champions, right? So
Mm,
anything that can get us closer to that goal is positive. So like obviously it's a shame that we couldn't go, but the whole experience and the whole tournament is a net positive for us. So that's kind of how we saw it, and I'm not sure if we have this feeling that, oh yeah, we need to vindicate ourselves and qualify this time instead. You know, um, I don't really want to put value on if we could go or not could go. Like I just want to show good Valorant, and I want us to play good, and I want us to win the game that is in front of us. And if we don't win the game that is in front of us, then I have to look at what did we do wrong, and what do we need to change, right, or do we need to
mm,
keep the same. So just keeping your head cool and not really over analyzing things too much. Um, but yeah, I think people were like, to summarize it, like I think all the players were pretty understanding of the situation. Um, obviously we have like one Ukrainian and two Russians, so
Yeah.
um, yeah, you can't really expect yourself to be going to a LAN. You know, I think people are realists and realize that yeah, sometimes shit happens and it's okay. So
Out of curiosity, is that something that the org or maybe Riot has been able to say anything on this time, or are you still like, we'll try to get first and see what happens? Like, is there has anything been said or done to almost solve that issue?
so the first thing I've done is I have three substitutes for a worst
Oh
case.
damn. Okay.
Yeah, so that's a thing. Obviously I had two substitutes last season as well, but now we have three, so that's good. Um, Second thing is I think Denmark, did they suspend like I think they don't give out visas, right, to something around there, but I mean we're trying to relocate some players, right, and
Mm.
trying different avenues on how to yeah how to get them into the tournament. But I think for this time the maximum players you can have in a roster is 8, so 5 plus 3.
Yeah.
So no matter what happens, we should be able to go, but with a lot of substitutes. Um,
Can you
if
say who they are or no?
No,
No. Okay.
uh, but I think you know obviously anything can happen. We can just do everything we can to minimize the risks. And obviously, we haven't qualified, so I don't want to act like, yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna qualify because obviously everything can happen, and maybe we don't qualify, maybe we don't, who knows? But yeah, we're making every step possible to kind of cover all the bases, and hopefully, at least the majority of the team can travel. Like it looks like that, at least.
Okay, sweet. Well, that's good. At least everything's being done that can be. Now we'll get on to this season because I think this season has been definitely exciting. One, like you were in the group of death or so called, and I honestly like other than maybe the first game, which was I think there were some interesting choices in there. I'll probably bring up the fracture a little bit, but like going into the group, did you expect it to come out the way that it did? Like with Fnatic being as good as they are, with Althea, and sort of like G2 being as, well, I guess, far down as they are.
I mean, first of all, I just have to say the groups are actually nuts. Like the
Yeah.
group A and group B. I think we all were like super surprised of a group.
Blame
So
Twitch chat. That's all I'm gonna
yeah,
say.
yeah,
Blame
I
Twitch
blame
chat.
them so much. Like every day, I'm like thinking about Twitch chat. Oh, if I just if I just banned this comment or no, no, but and I mean, I think for G2, like if you take G2's performance, I think they might have done a little bit better being in the other group. I think they
Yeah.
got a bit unlucky, but at the same time, I think they like, yeah, they did some. I think they did some mistakes in terms of like their role swapping and
Yeah.
maybe some structural problems with like practice and like not changing stuff around like from week to week. Because I think that was always the problem with G2, that they play exactly the same like some weeks and some maps, and a good team like Fnatic or maybe us is gonna just counter that completely and know what we're doing. So I think that's kind of what brought them down. Like they played very same and very stale, which they usually don't. Like usually they're actually a really hard team to play, and they actually come with
Mm.
some really great ideas, and I really respect them as a team. Like I really, really respect them. Like I think they're one of the hardest team to play usually. So and about Fnatic, honestly, it was the reversed. I didn't think they would be that good. I just remember the first round, and I just Alpha Year like owning us on Fracture. I'm like, oh shit, this is not gonna be fun. And
You're just
then
like, why didn't my algorithm pick this? The fuck you, Mini. Fuck.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I knew. I think Alpha Year was like an obvious pick. I think a lot of teams looked at him because if you just press stats and press
Yeah.
VRL, like he was at the top, right? So he was like the most top-rated player from the
Mm.
whole
I'm
like
still
tier
waiting
two
for
scene.
someone to sign Purpo. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah,
Like, I'm still
which
waiting for that.
we tried him, like we play with him.
Is he
So
one of the? Is he one of the? Is he one of the subs?
I
Is he one
can't
of
say,
the?
but
You can't say. He didn't say no though, so I'm
Purple
just.
is. I shouldn't say that purpose good because I want to keep it to myself, but yeah, Fnatic is. I think also like going into Fracture, we obviously didn't have any votes on them. Like we're a new team.
Yeah.
We kind of thrive on knowing what the enemy does a little bit, at least knowing their style and knowing like how we like to play. But it was just a blind like 5v5 against each other, right? And they did some defaults that countered our defaults, and it just snowballed out of hand in that first map on Fracture. Then on Ascent, we dominated them, right?
Yeah.
So like each one dominating each other, and then on Icebox, it was like a super close game. Alpha pushes for smoke in mid and kills like three guys. Like what can you do? Like it's actually he's so stupidly good. Like it's actually stupid like how good this guy is and how much confidence he has. So
Mm.
um and we won, you know, but I believe like I believe we could have won, but I think they're looking so scary with Alpha and Durka. Like even Enzo, Boaster, and Mystic, like, they're all doing great. You
Yeah.
know, Boaster looking really good with his role change. Enzo is looking like totally like revived from what I'm used to seeing from him. You know, maybe it's the name change from Fear to Enzo that's making him so good. But it seems to really work like with the dynamic between Boaster and Enzo and how we're handling the calling. So and on top of that, we're doing like we're using the new meta. We're like playing to a new meta strength, like race, chamber, fade, right?
Yeah.
So we're like doing everything right, and it's all kind of coming together in a like harmony, and that's why we're so good. Like we're both like
Mm.
playing new shit and playing it really well, and understanding like what we need to do and what everyone's role is. So
Well, yeah, I want to sort of talk about some of the changes you've made as well, because one of the obvious ones is we've seen the jet nerf. Obviously, you even mentioned earlier that ultimately Ardiis was brought in for that exact role. Does the chamber almost just slot hand in hand? Is that how it almost feels at the moment? Because it seems like most people who were very good on jet are now very good at chamber.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, if you're gonna pick the chamber, you're gonna run into a problem that you don't have like a space creator on attack. You know, so you see people play race or maybe play neon stuff like this along with the chamber. Um, I don't think it slots like completely hand in hand, you know, because I think
Yeah.
attack as a chamber is very different than attack with a jet, but defense with a jet and defense with a chamber, I think is pretty similar, right? I think chamber is even easier to play as
Mm.
a jet main on defense. Like it's like really easy. So obviously, i- yeah, it's not one to one, but like the good thing about Artists and why we also brought him into the team is that he can flex. You know, he can play KO, he can play Breach, he can play Sova, he can, you know, he's
Yeah.
not like he's very far from Jet one trick. You know, he can really play like most agents in the game, like to a very high level, like really high level. So that's kind of what I like value with him as well that I forgot to say before. You know, um, so that kind of allows us to like yeah play race and Zyppan finally that we'll love
Oh,
to see.
we've been
Yeah,
since Zyppan go kill. We've been waiting for this to come back, but
yeah.
that's almost the thing though. It's with Zyppan. One of the weirdest things I found is since the beginning of time, I enjoyed his Rays, but there's genuinely a part of me that enjoys his Sage, especially when he used to play it on like Ascent more. Which I don't know why, but it's just somehow more enjoyable because I don't think he plays it like other people do. It is somehow still a duelist with him, which I don't really understand, but I feel like that's just Zyppan.
I feel it's like a Scream with Sage. It's kind of the same
Yeah.
way. It's like just laser aim and just shooting people in the head, and
Like,
sometimes maybe
oh, wall.
yeah, you know, someone who heals themselves instead of healing teammates with Sage. It's kind of like that. I mean, I think for Zyppan, like obviously it was a race meta in the beginning, right? And we could get away
Yeah.
with only playing a race on all the maps. And he's not an opera, you know, so we couldn't really play him on. It didn't make sense to play him on Jet, basically.
Mm.
But as the meta progressed, like obviously you needed someone like back then you needed a Jet main, so we kind of needed to pick someone up, and the meta went away to the race players playing more like KO and Sage, like you saw it with, I think it was Doma, right, in Fnatic who did it. Maybe someone else, you know, but
Yeah, I think a lot of people went in a direction of either that or like Sky.
yeah,
Like there
Sky,
were
yeah,
a
exactly,
few
yeah,
people doing that the
yeah,
same,
yeah.
but
And I mean, he plays Sky too, so it's kind of transitioned from this like just race into a more like flexible player who can play a lot of roles and actually be a more complete player. And we worked like really hard with it, like with his utility usage, and me sending him like big Google Sheets with a bunch of stuff, like you need to practice this. Hello, answer me. Practice this flash, do this. So
So obviously you've already sort of mentioned Fade coming into the meta. I think a lot of people were somewhat unsure coming into this season whether or not Fade would be a game changer or whether it would just sort of slot in certain positions. I think Shao is one of the people who played it the most. I think he's got like 6 times currently on the Fade, and a lot of your setups, again, especially if I think back to Ascent, really revolve around this agent. Like you had a lot. I think people have even started stealing your little door execution with
yep.
the KO nade. Pretty sure G2 did that one a few times. But what was it about the agent when you initially got it that you were like, actually, I can do a lot of shit with this?
I mean, from the release, I thought she looked like really strong. Like obviously she looks really cool. So
Yeah.
for me, she's cool. So like, I want to try her. And like when I looked at the prowlers, like they
Yeah.
actually go a real long distance, and you can actually have a lot of control with them. So it's basically like having, I don't know, the Sky Ultimate like every round, like for defaults and for information. It's actually crazy how strong it is. And then she has the stoppage power of an Astra with the C's and like the combo
Mm.
potential. And the eye is just it just makes so much sense. Like especially when you nerf Sova and suddenly have Fade to just
Yeah.
switch that position. It just makes
It's
sense, and
almost
it's
like it was on purpose.
yeah. And then it's like for a team like us who likes to think a lot about like waypoints, information, and utility, it's just a fun agent to create stuff with. Like it's just a fun agent to play, a fun agent to, oh yeah, we need to take the space here in this default. Yeah, we can just use a prowler and do it. It's pretty easy agent to work with and come up with, yeah, stuff on the map.
Right, so obviously, other than that, like this season, I think you can say has pretty much gone fairly well for FPX, other than maybe the first game. I'm sure you would have liked to win it almost
Yeah.
flawlessly. You've already qualified. Other than your group, you can choose your group. Other than obviously yourselves, are there any teams that really sort of surprised you? Like, be it for good reasons or for bad? Like, was there a team you thought would do much better, maybe in Group B, or was there a team that you're like, actually, this team is a lot better than I thought they were going to be? Obviously, you've kind of said Fnatic already, but
Yeah,
I'll see
I
if there's
mean,
anyone else.
you probably know who I'm gonna say, but M3C I thought
Yeah,
would be so much better. Like we played them in scrim sometimes, and I still think we're really good. I think we're in a bit of a slump, like individually and as a team. But it's so weird with them, but because suddenly they just turn on and they look like the best team in the world, and they can just run over any opponent. They
yeah.
just need to kind of get back in the
Watch
groove.
the Navi game.
Yeah.
That series was weird. It's like we just won our map dominantly, and now we've just lost the next one dominantly, and you're like, I don't know what's going on
Yeah,
anymore.
and it's not the M3C we're used to see, right?
Yeah.
And I think it sometimes is like that in a team game or in esport. Like you have your downtime, you have your like uptime. Like it kind of goes like a graph, And right now we're in a pretty big dip, but this is the time to buy the stocks, right? So
Yeah.
I think maybe they won't. I hope they will make playoffs, and maybe they will make Copenhagen, or maybe they don't. It all depends on if they can play at the standard we're used to.
Mm. I've been looking at the math of like them not making playoffs today, and it genuinely was like mind-bendingly painful. It's like if Big wins and then Navi loses, then Big beat them. But if Navi wins and Big wins and Mech loses, then maybe Navi goes through. And I'm like, someone else explain this to me. And I just put that in one of the chats, the admins. I'm like, is this correct? And I'm sure I've got a response, but I'm sure they're just going, Tom, shut up. We're just going to write this in a graphic so that everyone else can understand more easily. But
I
yeah,
mean,
it's not the scenario we expected them to be in. Like, realistically, the 2-0 versus Big blew my mind. I could not believe that happened.
Big also played. Like I watched the game. I watched the
Hmm.
Big quite a lot, and man, Twisten is actually owning. Like he's been owning the whole season. Like even when they
I
lose,
love him,
he's
but he also pisses me
but
off.
then you're sure that he pisses off opponents too,
For
like
sure.
yeah, and that's like a really good thing. And I think he's really like his aim is so fucking good. Like it's
Mm.
actually insane. And I watched that like Gambit and M3C game, and yeah, they basically just out aimed them. I think like it's obviously MPC played pretty stale, and they had some bad moments and maybe some like repeat calling that wasn't the best, like not the best adaptation to what was happening around the map. But I mean, Big surprised me. Like I really think they,
Yeah.
I really think they can make playoffs. Like I really do. Like they got their
Mathematically, it's tough, but they could.
yeah, yeah, but I mean, they got their first win, and like
Mm.
they actually look really scary. Like individually, like they're very, very strong. So like for me, like they actually surprised me. I think we're looking more scary than their old team, right? So um, I think those two for me. Then the rest is kind of the same. You know, I think everyone is kind of at the level where I think they would be. I would think ACEND is looking pretty strong actually after the last game we did. Like the start of their season was a bit rough, I think, like a
Mm.
bit chaotic. Um, but I
They
still,
did get smashed by G2 at map one.
yeah, yeah. I trust me, I watched it, but like they're a team you can never count them out, like
Yes.
individually and like of instinct. This team is like full of like tier one talent. Like they can just take over a game and win. You know, it's actually quite scary. It's like, you know, old G2 vibes. You know, sometimes
Yeah.
like it might not be the best macro, best game plans, but man, we're a good team when we want to, and they can just win off rounds, right, and boom you completely. So I think they might have a good shot as well. But other than that, yeah, the scene is pretty boring, I would say.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Well, to finish, because I feel like we've been going a while, I want to obviously throw you under the bus and just ask you straight away for your predictions going into the playoffs. Now, obviously, I think you can either make the assumption that Met qualify, or you can try and work out the math of how someone else is going to do it. That's up to you. But
Hmm.
other than, obviously, you're going to say yourself getting through. So, who are the other two teams? Well, you can't not say yourselves, otherwise that means you don't believe in your players. So you've
No,
got to say yourself.
I never predict. I never predict our own games or what we will do. Like
Okay.
I really don't care. So, but
Well,
the
let's
other
say you
two,
do qualify. So
hmm
who are the two teams you think you would come with?
I mean, Fnatic 100%. Like Fnatic for sure. Like
Hmm.
I really hope they keep playing strong, because like the Fnatic that are showing right now, like I want them to be in Masters. I want them to be in Copenhagen
Yeah.
and like beating the other regions and finally like showing our region how strong it is. You know, I think it
Yeah.
was
We only
super.
lose in Iceland. That's the rule.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
but it was super heartbreaking, like because we weren't there, Fnatic wasn't there in full
mm.
force, and it was kind of frustrating not being able to show our region strength. And now you have a lot of, I don't know, threads on Twitter or podcasts or VLR saying, you know, yeah, yeah, NA is better. Yeah, I'm not sure
I got yeah,
these
I
teams.
don't know if you saw the tweet I made. I got roasted to shit
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
said
I saw the
if
tweet.
we send Fnatic, FPX, and Guild, I think we finished top 3, and people lost their minds. But there is a part of me that genuinely does believe that. Like Guild's the only question mark I have, because I still, until they qualify for an event, I'm never gonna believe they're gonna do it. And I know that sounds harsh, but I have at many times gone, actually, I think this is the moment. And then they get to the playoffs, and I'm like, who are these guys? Like, where did the other guys go? Where did the team that was smashing people all of last season, like, and then they go into playoffs, and I'm like, pfft. Now I will say, I think, at least in my eyes, this is the best iteration they've ever had
Yeah,
of their
yeah, yeah,
squad
for sure.
by like quite a margin. But at the same time, until you've done it, until you qualify, I think it's meaningless.
It's like I can obviously Screambox is fucking Screambox, so like I don't
Yeah.
wanna say
Mecca, the
too
best team in
much.
the world still.
Yeah, yeah, but it's like every time all the teams come to EU to practice, like during each Masters, right? All the regions come here
Yeah.
and they practice like all the EU teams. Like we absolutely dominate like every region in practice, like NA, Asia. Like like it's not close. So um, that's why I never like rated them pretty high. But I think there's like NA especially and Optic were really good in officials, and like they have a
Yeah.
really good understanding on how to play the game for officials and not just for scrims, right? Um, but like that was part of my frustration, that I knew that some of our teams like could actually like dominate these teams that came far into the tournament, but we didn't get to show it. So,
Mm.
but back to your question,
Yeah, who's number three?
Fnatic obviously, and then for number three, my gut feeling says Guild, just
Okay.
because I feel like they look like they have the least amount of problems like to fix. Um, but I'm sure it's gonna be something where Liquid, like, I don't know, Divera Jumpy goes for a smoke, gets a free K, and they kind of go to Copenhagen, or it's gonna be Ascend, like, yeah,
Cena does the same
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Like,
and it's gonna be something like that, because my gut feeling is like usually it's correct, but sometimes I just get heartbroken,
mm.
and
I feel like there's always one team, and well, I hate to say it, a lot of the time it was you guys. There's always one team that you expect to do really well, and then they didn't. And
yeah.
that last year, that was you guys. I think everybody was like, FPX, this is the time, and then it never quite got there. So obviously, last season you smashed it. So I think that's gone out the window.
But you have to understand it's Valorant too, so, like you can't expect every team to perform to its maximum at all times. Like
Yes.
some teams will have some bad days, and if you're unlucky enough, it's gonna be during the playoffs, and you're not gonna qualify. So obviously anything can happen. Like Fnatic,
Mm.
maybe they have a bad week and we're not gonna qualify. It's obviously everything can happen, but like for me, oh, it's so close. It's like 33% between like Ascend, Guild, and no, 25%. It's like Mech. It's like Mech,
I was like, who's
Guild.
he leaving out, Mech or Liquid?
Yeah, yeah,
I
it's
was,
like
I was
Mech,
really
Guild,
interested with it.
Liquid, and Ascend. It's like, yeah. I honestly, like, I don't know. What's your top three? Because I can't name that third team.
See,
Like,
I did a thing on like the podcast I do with Mitch where I was like, my question was the top three will all come from Group A, and I do believe there's a world that happens, but I think I'm with you in the sense it's you guys, it's Fnatic, and then it's Guild. Like Guild, the only caveat I have is either I think they're significantly better than some of the teams in their group, or they had problems, and I think that's the one thing that I kind of question is like Liquid, they didn't look like they struggled too much against, but they then made a roster change after that game. Mech have lost some games where I'm just like, what the fuck happened here? I think they're better than BBL. I think they're better than Big. And I think they're better than Na'Vi. So ultimately, I'm still sat there going, do they now do this exact same performance versus Ascend? Because I feel like Ascend are such a different beast to other teams where if Cena, Starzo, and Zeke have a good day, it doesn't matter what team you are, you lose.
yeah.
And that's what's scary about that team because if they hit playoffs form, which this is the thing, going into champions, did you believe Ascend would win
No,
the whole thing? Because I
no,
didn't. I
no.
fucking
Of
didn't.
course, I don't think anyone did.
And that's this team. That's why whenever
Yeah,
I look at them, I go, I've got to have like a cheeky suspicion that Ascend are
yeah.
gonna. And I guess Liquid are in that bracket as well because it's like they just have superstars.
I mean, Liquid is so weird because it makes me so happy and so mad at the same time looking at them because like your game theory brain is like, yeah, they should lose this, they should lose this round, yeah, this looks bad, they should lose this, but they have so amazing players and they just win rounds and sometimes they look very good. And same with Ascent, to be honest, is like I have deep respect for how good they can be, and even our match this week, like
Mm.
I'm not, arrogant at all. I think they can win as much as we can win.
Yeah.
It's really just, the better team will win, and both team can win, and it's pretty open. Like people like to say that it's like FPX and Fnatic on the top, but I think that can change really quick, especially like in this game. It can actually change really quick. So yeah, I just have respect for those teams, and I think if they find their like mojo, they can actually take it. It's a typical Ascend. It's like with Sentinels too. Like they lose some rounds, or might be like 10-2 down, but somehow they win, like they just
Mm.
pull it out of a bag. and like the ability to do that in officials is so valuable.
It's
So
the bullshit meter. It just
yeah, yeah.
it goes off the chains, and you're like, ah, well, there was
And you
nothing I
have
could
all
do in
the
that
like
one.
Twitter analysts like, oh, why are we doing this? How are we winning? I don't know. It's like, yeah, but yeah, it's it's hard to tell, but yeah.
Well, you've said where people can see the team coming into this week. They're going to be playing twitch.tv/Valorant, of course. But is there anything else you want to shout? Because obviously we've got your Twitter. I've put that below your name. You have your montages. If someone wants to go to d00mbr0's on YouTube, they can watch some old school COD montages. I might have a little bit of a watch of those. But I know that you have, like, I think you said 16-hour days coming up to prep for the playoffs, like going into the mind palace of d00mbr0's. But is there anything else you want to shout out just beforehand?
I mean, I think I want to shout out Angel a bit more. I think he's I think he's very underappreciated in this scene, like especially his IGL ability and his ability to lead his squad in game, and like his ability to take the information I give him and actually create something useful out of it and call it. I think he's by far the smartest individual in the scene by a long shot. Like really, I think he's been underused in the public. Like people should pick his brain a bit more and figure out his secrets. I know he's a very secretive person, so it's gonna be hard. But like this guy, like Angel is like I'm almost getting emotional, you know,
If
talking about it. Like he's my like role model for sure. So I want to shout him out more, you know, and
mm.
for people to give him more credit for like the work he does and the stuff he comes up with. So
So in other words, if he ever becomes a coach, you're going to make me delete this video, is what you've just said.
if yeah, I mean, if he becomes a head coach, like I'm the first guy to say, yeah, I'll be your assistant coach any day. Like I don't care. Like it's like his yeah, big fan here. So
I don't know. Well, if you're a fan of the people you work with, that's always going to go fantastically well. Unfortunately, I have to work with Mitch, man, which is a completely different story. But either way, thank you very much for joining me. This has been fantastic. I'm sure I'm going to beg you to come on some way down the future. And, of course, best of luck to you and the team qualifying for Masters again, I guess. Qualifying again.
yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for having me and listening to my ramblings.
For anybody, of course, you can subscribe. Hopefully, this is going to happen again sometime. And, yeah, we'll see you in the future.